Hello. So this is Kerbal Space Program. It's a game where you can manage your own space agency by building rockets, launching them into space, and exploring the solar system. And you don't play as humans, of course. You play as Kerbals, and Kerbals are the race that inhabits Kerbin, which is Earth, as you can see out there. So we're going to start here. We're going to build a very simple orbital module, and this orbital module is it'll be very simple. Simply just hold the Kerbal in place as it orbits. It can get into orbit. We won't go any farther than that. So I added a command module that is a Mark 1. It holds one Kerbal. You can have modules that hold 3, and there are other fuselages available that you could use. There are even unmanned probe options, so you don't even have to send Kerbal up in there to space. So what I just added there was a decoupler, followed by an SAS module. The decoupler separates stages, as you know in rocketry. The second thing there is an SAS module, which allows you to have greater control over the rocket, adding thrust vectoring capabilities, more so than what you would have without it. Now I added a fuel tank. The fuel tank here is the biggest, I believe, in the medium range of fuel tanks. It holds the most without going into large. And I added the strongest medium rocket available without going into large again. So I added another decoupler, and I'm just prepping this because I'm going to have these logically separated for rocket stages. Anybody who's slightly familiar with rocketry would know that you would have to have stages to get any sort of altitude, significant altitude in rocketry. So I added a Rockomax brand adapter, which of course is it takes from a medium to large adapter, or large to medium, depending on how you rotate it. And I have that out to the left there, which is a large Rockomax coupler for large nodules. And I don't know if I'm going to need it, so I'm just going to put it off to the side here. Now the way I'm doing this is that I just attached the largest fuel tank that you own, and it's it holds a significant amount of fuel and liquid O2 and all that. So it's enough to carry you very far in orbit. And I'm adding these decouplers here. Now these decouplers are like they allow you to attach things to them, and then later in a stage you can then just detach them at the press of a button. Now the object I have here it's a solid rocket fuel booster. This is the small version. There is a large version available. This small version here is a disposable rocket. It's used to just burn, and the burn does not stop until the chemical reaction, all the fuel inside is done. And I'm adding 2 sets of them. This is just to give you extra lift without adding, well, in this case, without adding height. Of course, anything you add to a rocket adds to its mass, which makes it harder to get off the ground. You need more thrust. That was a mainsail large thruster. It is the largest thruster available with, I believe, 1,500 units of force. And it has the tendency to overheat, so you can't throttle it up to max at all the time. You have to feather it back at a certain point so it does not overheat and explode. Yes, that does happen. So we have our rocket pretty much complete here. Looks like I didn't need the coupler after all. Now there's a few more things we still need to do, but the main assembly is complete. So let's take a look and see what we can do up here. There's of course, if in the case of emergency, you're going to need the parachute. And this parachute, it attaches to the nose of the command module, and it can be deployed in a stage. If you notice off to the right there, you can see the various stages that you have. You can add and remove stages, take things out of the stages, and reorder them at any point during the flight or even in here. And this is just the simple structural stability. This is for stability, as to keep your rocket centered on the launch pad, so you don't have it tip over. And larger rockets, more cumbersome rockets, will not have that balance. So you have to be careful. In this case here, on the right, I'm reordering the stages. Now, the various things that I've added on, they're along with the things that can be activated in the stages are the couplers that are marked with black and yellow striping, the boosters, and also the decouplers, which I attach the solid rocket boosters to. And the very top, as you can see, that is the parachute. So logically, is you're going to want to activate these in a specific order. And in this point here, you can take the time to figure out exactly how your rocket is going to be to exit the atmosphere. So on the fifth stage, the very bottom stage, I have the main sail thruster, the bottom rack of 8 solid rockets, and the structural decouplers. As you can see, the structural holders, those will all decouple as soon as the first stage is activated. And the second stage there is it launches the bottom rack of the solid boosters off and then activates the second boosters. The fourth stage does the same thing. The third stage separates the decoupler from the large fuel tank, and then all that leaves is the top. So that would leave you with just the medium fuel tank and then the command module, and finally the command module then gets separated, and the last stage at the top is the parachute stage. So let's go ahead and launch this. Okay, so we're on the launch pad, and let me just show you exactly. This is the map view. This is a radar tracking view. You can see that I have several other craft in orbit, and they show their orbit trajectories and all that. Now, I'm zooming out here. This is the first moon of Kerbal, just simply called the moon. I have a craft orbiting that. Then you have Minmus. There are other extraplanetary craft that I've launched out there that just did not get in orbit, and they're simply orbiting the sun. There are several other planets in the solar system, and you can visit them all, provided enough planning and preciseness. So I'll throttle it up here. You can see that the throttle is not all the way up max, but then you can also get the max so you can get the first up. So I've activated it. Everything then looks like it's all going correct. I have the, as you notice, the SAS I mentioned allows greater torque. So it allows you to lock in a trajectory on your orbital compass there. The SAS will keep that and then use the thrust vectoring to keep everything as it is and point it straight up, which is what we want. And you can track your progress in real time using the map. There goes the first section. And we can see our apoapsis, which is the highest point in our trajectory, is rapidly rising, and they have a surface speed of 420, or rapidly increasing to 600 meters a second. Now we want to have enough of a velocity to get out of a surface area of the atmosphere and into an orbital mode. So we have our second set of solid boosters now completely gone. And I've cut the main thruster because I want to add a maneuver at the apoapsis. And this maneuver here, it allows you to adjust your trajectory by using these little doodads. I'd like to admit that I don't know what all these are. I just know that the one that looks like a plane is the it controls the that's a retrograde, and well, it doesn't really matter as long as you can just finagle it a little bit. So I've plotted a course of an orbit around Kerbal, and I have you can see my orbital speed, my velocity is going down, but that doesn't, that's alright. So I'm reorienting the rocket towards the green, or the blue crosshair. The blue crosshair is the trajectory for my newest point. And inside the cockpit, it allows you a greater chance to fine-tune the exactly your maneuvers. Now this maneuver here, as long as you're pointed toward that maneuver will then allow you to orient yourself to the maneuver that you set earlier. Now, all these instruments are real time, by the way, so everything there you can see is reflected in real time. So let's go ahead and get rid of the solid fuel. Now that they're gone, we have less mass, and we'll be able to gain acceleration quicker. So, as you can see at the bottom right here, you have a bar next to the orbital compass. This is a meter detailing exactly how fast you need to change your speed. And it shows you the estimated burn, which is the length of the burn that you're going to be needing. And you have a node down there in T-minus 7 seconds. That means exactly when you need to initiate your maneuver. So, we'll throttle up. As you can see, that particular crosshair shows the forward direction of our craft. There is another crosshair with an X in it, with 3 points as well. That is the retrograde axis. That is the opposite of which way we're going. So I separated that stage, and now finally we have just the medium tank. This is the lightest our craft will get before we can completely ditch it, and, well, if we don't succeed, we're just going to fall back to Kerbal. And it's not going to be the end of the line for our friend there in the cockpit, but he'll have to have someone come pick him up. So here I'm just feathering it, making sure that I'm relatively precise with this maneuver. And I cut the acceleration there exactly when it said to cut it. And now look, I can see right there my orbit. As you can, it's a little cluttered, but I can see through the retrograde, the apoapsis and the petroapsis. I think it is periapsis. Excuse me. That I have a full functioning orbit of Kerbal. And I can adjust the time warp in the top left, as you can see. This is time warp 50x, so you can see everything is orbiting nice, nothing's colliding, although I think the chances of you colliding in space with something is extremely remote. But, so this is pretty much what Kerbal Space Program is all about. You have a large range of tools at your disposal. You can also create space planes as well. But everything else, though, it's extremely easy to figure out, and it'll go much better when you finally figure out how to exactly get yourself orbiting another planet or the moon or wherever. But yeah, so thanks for watching.